Welcome to the Koi Perspective. I'm delighted to say that I've got Chris Edwards here from Aakari Koi.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you for coming. No, I'm really excited about this. Chris is somebody who a lot of you guys may have seen recently. He's done a couple of interviews, I think, on YouTube. You got one with Tim.
Yeah, Tim persuaded me to do one. I wasn't comfortable doing it, but Tim knew that. But he was very persuasive, put it that way. So, yeah.
And I've equally been as persuasive because we've got him here in my garden today. I couldn't think of anywhere to do an interview, but this is nice, a bit more relaxed.
We'll have to do one in Japan, you know.
Yes. But no, Chris, you're part of Aakari Koi.
I own Aakari Koi. I set that up in 2012 for various reasons why I set it up. But if you want to go through that at some point later, as we go through, so I've been running that since then.
Right. And was you a hobbyist before you started Aakari Koi?
I've never been a koi hobbyist.
Right.
Never. I was a tropical fish hobbyist.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was working in the dairy industry in Leicestershire. But prior to that, I was keeping tropical fish all my life, various aquariums, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And I was working in the dairy industry in Leicestershire, and I was doing that for 9 years. And I went and snapped my cruciate ligament playing football.
Oh God.
And I was being watched by Leicester City the following week. So I thought, I'm going to pretend I haven't snapped my cruciate ligament, and I'm going to go and play again, because I didn't know what damage had done. Yes, that done me a lot of damage.
Wow.
And Leicester City pretty much told me there and then that I'm an idiot, and with an attitude like that, I'm going nowhere in the world of football.
Oh, Christ.
Not that I was good enough, but yeah. So
if you were being watched by Leicester City, you must have been half bad.
I was a goal hanger, and it was around Gary Lineker was sort of just left, and they was looking for someone else to just hang around and get some goals. So yeah,
Nice.
no, I was never good enough. It was just more flattery than anything.
Yeah.
And as a result, there's no way I could continue doing what I could do in the dairy industry. After 7, 8, 9 operations, 2, 3 years, there was nothing left for me to do there. I couldn't continue working, and I happened to be reading a copy of Practical Fish Keeping on a Thursday. Was it a Thursday? It was a Tuesday. I do apologise. So I was reading it on the Tuesday, and I saw Brooksby College in Leicester, something about tropical fish courses, and that's only 5 minutes from where I used to live. So I thought, I don't understand this. So I was on the verge of handing my notice in. So I contacted the college, and they say, right, we've got a 2-year national diploma in fishery studies and aquatics starting next Monday.
Wow.
Because it was August, so it was just the start of the new term. And I spoke to a gentleman named Ben Helm, who at the time was the lecturer, and he'd just finished at Aquarian. He was the head of nutrition at Aquarian. And he spoke to me on the phone and says, right, get in on Thursday, I want to interview you. So I went in on the Thursday. He interviewed me and said, we want you in on the course on Monday. It costs this amount of money. I didn't have that money, and he said, don't worry, you're injured, you're incapacitated, so we can probably get you on I can't remember what he called it, but it was like a benefit kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, got the 2-year course paid for me.
Wow.
And after 2 years I ended up with student of the course, all that kind of stuff. So I did very, very well.
And what was like the first, professional going into work with Koi?
Coming back to, I'd never been a koi hobbyist before. Obviously, I came across, part of my module was koi. It was carp farming,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So we had to study all this. And I remember doing a full module on carp farming, and I wrote at the end of it saying I had no interest in this. It was too cold. Didn't like it. I did my best. I like to think I did a good job of what I did, but it's not my passion, etc., etc. Within a week, we had a meeting with the head of Nishikoi Fish Food, John Fimbo, his name was, and he's now a very good friend of mine. And he wanted to interview the 5 best students. Fortunately, I got chosen as one of the 5. And I was 25 at the time, after my 2-year course, and there was with a load of young lads that couldn't be bothered on a Friday night to meet this guy. So I thought, well, if he wants to meet the 5 best students, something's happening.
Yeah, yeah.
So we had a chat, 2-3 hours, and he went away again. So I was coming to the end of the course. I wrote him a letter, as we did back then. And he got the letter, and he contacted Ben Helm and said, was Chris the guy with glasses who sat in the corner? So Ben said, yes. Said, right, I want to interview him. We're setting up a koi carp import business.
Wow.
To run alongside Nishikoi Fish Food, and we're going to be the agents for Orna Fish International. So within a week, I'd said, yes, I can do that. I love koi. And, I went down there and I set a whole import business up.
Wow.
And, I was there for 3 or 4 years, and that's how I got involved with Ornafish at the time.
And for those of the people who are watching that haven't heard of Ornafish are probably one of the biggest exporters in Europe.
Yeah,
koi.
worldwide,
Yeah.
out of Niigata, certainly. They are the biggest in terms of box numbers out of Niigata.
Right.
So my relationship with those dates back to 1999, and it's still going today.
And what was the first time that you'd been to Japan then with Ornafish?
That was with Nishikoi's sister company, which was
Right.
Koi Company at the time.
Yeah.
We was the UK agent, and my boss said to me, Chris, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We need you to go to Japan. You're running the fish house. We need you to be able to know what's going off in Japan and be able to relay that to the dealers back in the UK.
Yeah.
And I think after 10 minutes being off the plane, I thought, there is no way this is a once-in-a-lifetime trip. I fell in love with the country
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with the koi world, the koi trade, the koi business, everything instantly.
Yeah.
Just from being with the breeders for those few days up in Niigata.
Yeah.
And I knew at that moment, I'm going to be living here. This is where I'm going to be one day. Wasn't ready then. I was green. I didn't really know much about koi. But I just knew that I loved them, and I loved the business and loved the people.
Yeah.
And so I set on a mission, going to various degrees of the trade. Do some retail, some wholesale, doing a few things so that eventually I will be in the right place at the right time to get out there and be a part of what's happening out there.
It's amazing. And can you remember, on the first trip, what breeders you went and visited back then?
My very first breeder was Sakasumi.
Right, okay.
He was the first breeder I ever went to, the first breeder I ever bought fish from. Yeah, I remember it clear as anything. 1999 autumn.
And I guess, did it live up to your expectations on first time you went there, or did it surpass what you were expecting?
Yeah, it surpassed.
Yeah.
It surpassed. It's totally alien to anything
Yeah.
I'd ever experienced before.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I still think back now to when I was, reading the magazines, and I'd see Marudo in the magazines, and I'd be reading about all these people.
Like
And now,
celebrities.
yeah, and now Marudo's calling me saying, Chris, I've got some fish I need you to get rid of. Please come and please come and get rid of these. And yeah, I still pinch myself when I look
Yeah.
back to that.
Yeah, and it's and so if you're obviously at the moment now in Japan, I think you said 5 and 7 months.
Yeah, I'm 7 months in the UK, 5 months in Japan. I've got my house out there, so all my stuff's there. So I just come and go as I please.
And I guess that leads us on to Aakari Koi. So Aakari Koi is your business.
Yep, it's my business, but it's been myself running it on my own since 2012. Emma's on board with me now because last year was just so busy with new accounts, etc.
Yeah.
I lost focus, and with looking after. That's probably a bit harsh on myself, but I was taking off more than I could really do, and I was worried that I'd start to let the regular dealers down who I've been working with over years, trying to keep up with the new dealers that were applying, etc., because there's been a big influx. So Emma's joined me now, but it has been myself since 2012.
And what was the reason for transitioning from Ornafish to Aakari Koi, this new business?
That's very clear. That's very clear. It was. I kept speaking to Rob, who owns Ornafish, Rob van den Enden, and he's a very good friend of mine, and I was saying, I think we need to do this. I think we need to do that. I said, I think we need to offer landed prices, because it was all done in yen.
Yeah.
I think we need to offer pictures and videos of fish, because you're selling fish in yen, inevitably the dealers are going to be unsure of what their price is going to be when the conversions all go through.
Yeah.
So they're always going to be disappointed. Very rarely does everyone say, oh, I've got a much better price, that's brilliant. And it's the same with buying blind. You're never happy with the box you open. I know that from experience. You're always disappointed. If you can see what you're getting, that eliminates that. But, Rob was too big, Ornafish were too big to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And then in 2011, I got stuck in the big earthquake. I was coming out of Tokyo on the Narita Express. I was heading home, and the train bounced all over the place. And
oh God!
To cut a long story short, I ended up in a refuge.
Wow.
4 days. We couldn't get out of there. I was in the stations, and the train stations were falling down around us. It was quite harrowing. So I ended up in a refuge for 4 days, and I had time to evaluate and think, what, I'm going to do this now. I want to do it now. So I went to Rob and I said, look, we need to make these changes. And he said, no. I says, right, then I want to do it myself.
Yeah.
And he was very good. And he said, if you think these changes are going to work, if you think it's what we need to do, then Ornafish will relinquish the agency in the UK and let you take over, set up your own business and handle everything. But you have to be the Ornafish agent. You know, I'm not going to give you this for you to just go and. So I said, okay, that sounds like a fair deal. And we quadrupled our turnover in terms of box numbers within the first year. Landed prices, pictures, videos, and it worked. It went from there.
And what essentially that you're doing as Ornafish is using your connections in Japan with all of these dealers, breeders that you've developed over the years.
Yeah, I mean, I also saw that there was no koi importers in the UK that was in Japan. They had their agents exporting and they was importing. And I thought, there's got to be a better way than this.
Yeah.
So I decided that if I'm going to set Aakari Koi up, I'm going to move out to Japan. And I did. And not full time. Throughout the whole buying seasons, I was there throughout 6 weeks in the autumn. And then I do 6 weeks in February, March. And then I go back out from April, May and June. So I intended to be part of the community. And just be part of the people.
And because you're there, nearly half the year, you have much more of an idea of boots on the ground, knowing what's going on, harvesting.
We see who's out there.
Yeah.
We see who's going where.
Yeah.
We have the breeders calling us saying, no one's here, please come. I've got, Hiroi will call and say, there's no one here, can you come and do my teteshita? Say, yeah, absolutely. So by being there, you've got access to everything.
Yeah.
And
one of them phone calls could be the difference between 10 boxes of getting that first selection as well.
Absolutely. I've got dealers screaming out for me for these fish. If X amount of fish from breeder XYZ. And I'm there to do it. I mean, if I'm not there, a prime example was 2000 and I don't know if you should touch on this or not, but a prime example where I've got the backup and support. Boxing Day 2015, my 12-year-old daughter was diagnosed with cancer, and I had a big decision to make there and then because Aakari Koi had been running for 3 years, and I didn't know what to do. I had no idea what to do, and I knew that I couldn't go to Japan.
Yeah.
But fortunately, the contacts I've made and the backup from Ornafish took all that worry away.
Yeah, that's
and
amazing.
they handled everything. Okay, business was smashed hard for 18 months. I took a big hit, but it wasn't important. What was important was I still went out to Japan in the April because dealers needed fish and I didn't want to let them down. But they was all very, very good and all very understanding. But
it's an example of the relationships that you've built.
Yeah, and relationships are vital.
Yeah,
absolutely vital. So it's nice to have that support network out there because you never know when you're going to need it.
Yeah.
You never know. It works both ways. When there's a big earthquake or they got problems, we're there for them. When a breeder goes down with KHV, we have made mistakes in the past where he's got KHV, we don't need him anymore. Let's give him a year and then we'll go back to him. That's not the right way to do business. So what we do now, they're still part of the community. A breeder will get KHV. We'll still go and have coffee with him. We'll still talk to him. We'll still keep in touch with him, saying, look, we're ready. When you're ready, and you're clear and everything's, we're here.
Yeah.
So that works both ways, and
it does. Brilliant. I mean, you've got to feel for the breeders that do come down with it. They probably feel disconnected from everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
The community.
The first time and second time, the third time, then you have to say, okay, what is going off here? But of course, it breaks their world. I mean, I don't want to name names, but when one breeder got it, I had a lot of fish with him that I lost. We're talking millions of yens worth of fish. And he was crying and saying, I don't know what to do, Chris. I don't know how to get these fish back to you. I said, don't. You've got a family to take care of. Just worry about me at a later date. And I mean, it's easy to sit back in the UK. So that breeder's got KHV. We're gonna,
never work with him ever again.
No, but when you see the pain they're going through, you want to help them. You want to get them back on their feet. So the loyalty, the support network works both ways, and it's wonderful. And you can only get that by being part of that community.
And do you think that from yourself, like obviously there is a bottom line to what it is that you do in terms of you're buying fish to sell to dealers to essentially make money on? That's the goal of Aakari Koi.
Not really. Of course it is. We're not in it not to make money. But the way I view that is I'm not buying to sell and I'm not selling. I view it, and it's maybe slightly pretentious, we're a team, and our job as a team is to get that fish to that person at the right price, and the right fish at the right price, that person. In that group, we've all got a role to. We've all got a role, like a football team. You know, you've got to get the goalkeeper to the goal.
Yeah.
You've all got a role that you've got to play. So I don't consider it buying and selling. It's just we're just part of that group. It's not even a chain. It's a group, and yeah, my role is to source them.
Yeah.
Listen to what the dealers are after and go and find them. So yes, on paper it's buying and selling. Yeah,
But
I look
it's
at it
more
deeper
than that. It's
Yeah.
deeper than that. Do you think that it makes a big difference for yourself, obviously being fluent in speaking the language, rather than working with a translator as well?
It's essential. I wouldn't say I'm fluent. I mean,
No, but you can.
I can live out there for 6 months and not speak a word of English. Yeah. I can do that. But if two of my Japanese friends are discussing the political state of Israel, then I might struggle to follow with some things. But it's only when new circumstances arise, like when my daughter got sick, I learned so many words that I never thought I'd have to learn because they're asking me questions all the time about how she's doing and these words that I never thought I'd need these words. So no, I'm not fluent, but absolutely.
Yeah.
To be able to just pick the phone up when Mariera will call me and say, I've just finished harvesting, I'll be back there in half an hour, do you want a coffee? And then we'll go through some stuff. Or he'll say, I've just picked a box of toss. I know you're going to like these. Come on, come now.
Yeah.
I say, I can't, I'm busy. Drop everything, I've got a box of toss for you. Say, get here now. So you have to drop everything and go. And without speaking Japanese, you don't get that relationship.
And do you think, as Aakari Koi, I think there's sometimes there can be in this country a little bit of a snobbery about which breeders people are buying from, and some of the bigger breeders nowadays, I know that you don't particularly work with, or not out of you don't want to work with them, but some bigger dealers like Sakai Dainichi, it's just so difficult to buy koi from at reasonable prices now.
Yeah, absolutely. I consider it my role to get the right fish for the right breeders, to be able to the right fish for the right dealers, to be able to make the right amount of money so they can keep their business successful and pass on good fish at the right price to the hobbyist.
Yeah.
If I feel that a breeder doesn't assist in that role, then no, I can't buy the fish. But it's not necessarily about a breeder, it's about the fish. I mean, Maruhiro is my best friend, but he's got fish that I couldn't justify sending back to the trade in the UK because it's going to finish them, because they're going to get stuck with fish they can't sell, or they can't move on, or that the hobbyist doesn't want. And so there are certain breeders that are more synonymous with fish that I can't buy for that reason. Yeah, absolutely.
And do you think that how has the auction culture changed for you? On has it changed anything for Aakari Koi?
It's changed in the sense that I can sit back and just let people buy fish. But I don't enjoy that.
Yeah.
That's just looking at numbers on paper, and anybody can do that. So I don't like it when customers buy fish from an auction that I could have gone and got them myself, because that takes away from what I do. But I can look at it and think, well, I'm not going to do anything now. And where it does help me a lot is 90% of the time, those fish I wouldn't have bought anyway.
Yeah.
Because I can't afford to take that risk. And it's one thing buying a koi that's going to cost you £1,000 landed that you've chosen to buy yourself for your shop. That's great. But if I chose to buy it and you don't want it, I'm stuck with all these fish that I then need to sell off at a ridiculous price because you just can't give them back to the breeder. The worst thing you can do is give these fish back to the breeder. So you have to cut your losses, and so sometimes it's a risk I don't want to take.
Yeah. And the other risk, I suppose, that I think we're moving towards, I mean, I did an interview with Tim on issue 1 of the magazine, and he said that he believes that some breeders are going to be looking towards trying to supply public directly in the future.
Yeah, Tim speaks a lot of sense on a lot of things, and I think that's possible.
Do you think that the breeders necessarily know what goes into your role in terms of actually getting the fish landed in this country, though?
I know they don't, because when I tell them, they go, oh, okay. When I tell them how much it costs to ship a box of fish back, they, sometimes they'll see a dealer's website and they'll say, how much is it selling that for? And I have to explain how much it costs just to ship a box of fish back. And it's not just the monetary value, it's your whole day going down to Heathrow Airport to pick the fish up. It's your whole night coming back again and unloading these fish. So the breeders do realise, and they're starting to realise. So I think when you're looking at high-end 5 million yen plus fish, 10 million yen, shipping one in a box over to China or Indonesia or Singapore, that works. That's okay.
Yeah.
When you're looking at a box of Nisai that a dealer has got to make money on, and still pass on that at a good price to the hobbyist, the breeders can't do that, and that's what they need us for. And we need those fish, so it's symbiotic and it works well.
Yeah. No,
And so what Tim's talking about, those fish are fish that I wouldn't necessarily look at purchasing myself, so it doesn't really affect me as it stands. No.
But do you think we'll see it? Do you think it will happen, or do you think that it's?
I don't know. The trade's changed a lot over the years, but fundamentally it's always stayed the same as well. The basic philosophies and principles have all stayed the same, where the breeder breeds the fish, then there's agent exports, there's an agent imports, and then the dealer buys from the importer. That chain has always been there. I think it's just changing a little bit. With my philosophy is I want the dealers working with the breeders closer, because that's my role, to look after the trade, to look after the dealers, and I want to bring those guys closer together.
And it's almost like a dealer's identity, which breeders they're buying from as well.
Yeah.
We've recently seen, some dealers, like, take for example, Chris at Aakari Koi, who's buying from Marihiro, and the relationship that he's managed to build there,
very good.
It's a very good relationship, and he, that's almost like now his Aakari Koi brand is his relationship there with that family. And so I can see what you're saying is that's important, and the auction culture and this buying direct thing is not necessarily stimulating that area.
I've got, myself and Marihiro, we've got this relationship, what I've had pointed out to me from many, many people, that is, I think special is probably too far, but we're very, very, very good friends. And we've worked together very closely for many, many years, and he's passionate about the UK. And he really wants to look after the UK market. And when he sees a dealer like Chris come in there, who's polite, friendly, thinks the same as Marihiro, that the relationship they have, it builds very quickly, and they got on very, very well. And I think that relationship will only get stronger and stronger. And that's like the story that I think that adds value to koi sometimes as well. You can buy one fish from one picture, as a hobbyist, from one breeder, and if you can get that ship free, then great. But where's the relationship? That breeder doesn't remember the hobbyist name. The hobbyist will always remember the breeder. But the breeder's got so many people around the world that he's working with, he's not going to remember that name. So I would rather that hobbyist have the relationship with Chris. For example, there's of course there's other dealers, and that they create that bond together.
Absolutely.
And I think it's about relationships, and it's about working with the right person at the right area to get the right fish.
And obviously now that looking into the future, obviously when you go back to Japan now, you've been there so long and so many times, what still gives you that buzz when you go? What's the thing you're most looking forward to when you get out there?
I don't know. It's everything. I just love it. I like the culture where you're left alone. We live in the mountains. I can just jump in my car. I'm 5 minutes away from Marihiro. I'm 5 minutes away from Marseille. I'm 2 minutes from Dainichi. And I can just jump in my car and I can get there. There's no angry driver at my backside flashing me out the way. There's no hold up on a motorway trying to get there. One thing in Japan, it's illegal to park on the road. You have to have a garage or a car park, so you can just drive your car through the villages. You're not stopping and starting and flashing the cars on. You can just get on with life.
It's a different life.
It's a different life, different culture. I'll have a breeder knocking on my door, bringing me some daikon, which is the Japanese radish. It's just a great, it's a great way of life. It's relaxed. It's I don't know what it is. It's the whole package. It's everything.
And what would you say your favourite variety is now? What's the one where you looking at a pond and the one that stands out to you?
It's a bit like asking to choose your favourite
child
or favourite song, isn't it? It changes. It changes. At the minute, I'm liking Sankey a lot. Sankey seems to be the thing that's pulling me at the minute. But again, that could be Koshiki tomorrow. I don't really have a favourite variety. Varieties is perhaps the thing what I specialise in most, where I pretty much know every variety. That's my thing. I know all the varieties. But
you don't have any weaknesses where you're stuck with loads of.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It happens all the time. We think You'll be at a pond and you think, oh, I'm going to buy all these. Yeah, it's brilliant. I'm going to buy the whole lot. I could sell all these. Everyone's going to make loads of money. And 3 days later, I'm stuck with these fish. no one wants it. I can't sell them. And oh no. So
it does happen.
It does happen. Again, you can't give them back to the breeder. So you've got to cut your losses.
And how do you think that, like, you know, are you seeing any new trends in Japan in terms of like what the future holds in terms of the fish houses? Any new trends or anything like that you've seen recently? You know, variety wise, obviously we're seeing more of the weird and wonderfuls now with Ginrin Aragokis and
I think the Aragoke trend's probably falling off a little bit now. 3 years ago, you could buy as many Aragoke as you wanted, and someone like they'd have them. There'd be dealers in there. You'd be looking around, they'd see a pond full of fish, they'd spot one Aragoke, they grab the net, they're in.
Yeah.
You know, it's trends come and go all the time.
Yeah.
All the time, you know, Shiro Bekkos, Akabekos, back in the late 90s, everybody wanted them. Well, you'll never find an Akabeko
no,
now.
I'm going to say I've never seen one.
Yeah, so, trends come and go.
Yeah.
Kikakiryu trend seems to be falling off a little bit now. You know, again, I would be asking dealers all the time, they were asking me for Benny Kikakiryu. It's still a popular fish, but that seems to be falling off a little bit now. Ginrin Asagi's coming back this year. Ginrin Akamatsuba seems to be in vogue at the minute. Goshiki this year we're struggling with.
Really?
Goshiki are not moving very fast, and I don't know why. I think maybe it's because last year was so good that dealers are stocked up with them.
Right, I see.
Yes, maybe we've reached saturation point on those for a while. Nothing majorly outstanding.
No.
Obviously, the Gosanki varieties are always going to be there or thereabouts. Surimono is always going to be there. Mujimonos, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And obviously, the other thing as well is that anybody who's watching this, who's maybe a koi dealer or, you know, who's interested in maybe visiting Japan, how do they best get in contact with you to
they can just email me through aakarisakoi.com or ornafish.com.
Yeah.
The Japan trips are a massive part of what we do.
Yeah.
And we encourage every dealer at whatever level, get out to Japan as soon as you can. Learn what's happening. What's good for us is understanding why sometimes I have to say no. When a dealer asks me for something, I don't like saying no, but sometimes I know it's impossible.
Yeah.
And until you've been to Japan, it's hard to understand why. But when you've been there, you think, okay, now I understand why that's not possible. Now I understand. And so I would encourage any dealer to get out there. You know, what I like to do, autumn harvest is a very difficult time because that's big business for a lot of koi dealers around the world. It's a time when they're buying the fish that they know they can sell at a premium.
Yeah.
And the hobbyist wants those fish. So the hobbyist wants to pay the premium because they want those fish. I would advise most new dealers to avoid that and join me in February, March, April, where I just say to them, just join me on what I do. Just follow me around. You haven't got to buy fish. All the pressure's on me. You know, I'm not taking you into a fish house and the breeder's wondering why you're not buying. It's all on me. Just come and sit with me, watch what I do. I'd encourage any new dealer to come and do that. Just experience Japan, because I think it's, of course you can run a koi business without never having been there. We do a great job in sourcing those koi for people, but you're not a koi dealer to make money. You're a koi dealer because you love koi, and you love Japanese koi, and you love the whole culture. And you need to be there and you need to see it, just to tell your customers that you've been there. And I've seen it so many times where the level of respect for a dealer goes up because their level of knowledge goes up massively just by going to Japan. And they can't put the finger on why half the time, but they feel it. And it's a feeling that you can't quantify, and it's not tangible.
No.
But it's going out to Japan really elevates you as a business.
I totally agree. And I'd say for people to follow you on social medias, but it's not as though you put in loads of content out there. That's why I'm so pleased that you've done this with me today.
If the hobbyist was to follow me, they'd probably be bored because I'm picking fish and I don't put them on social media. And the reason why I don't is dealers have got to sell the fish to make money, and they don't. The hobbyist doesn't need to know that I've been involved in that in any way, shape, or form. And what I did find was I put a box of fish on where I picked them, and there's a finite number of fish in that pond, so you can only pick the best fish or what you perceive to be the best fish, and there's always going to be one or two in there what you probably wouldn't want. You'd want a better selection. So then you put a bowl of 10 fish on your Facebook page. So I'll pick these today. These will be available, and someone will inevitably say, "Well, I don't like that one."
Yeah.
Well, you of course. I don't like that
Yeah.
one. You don't like that one, but somebody will. Somebody's going to
yeah.
like it. And what you're now doing is you're now affecting a sale from a dealer on. So I stopped putting anything like that on Facebook now, and all I do is put pretty pictures of breeders harvesting koi and things like that. I don't
Yeah.
really use my social media.
No.
And it's detrimental to my business because I need to advertise and I need to get myself out there. But there's also, I don't need to be known.
You don't need to be the face of the dealers that you're working with.
No.
Whereas that's not maybe to be said of other wholesalers and other things out there, you know. And that's quite nice. It's that the dealer can be the one.
Yeah, it's my job to put the dealer in contact with the breeder.
Yeah.
So, you know, when a dealer's coming to Japan, I will make sure the breeder knows the week before who's coming.
Yeah.
I'll make sure they remember what fish they bought. I'll say, look, this dealer bought this from me. They've never been before, but if you look at all these files, what I bought, their names by the side of it, and they'll go, ah.
Yeah.
And then they'll look forward to seeing the dealer coming out there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I don't need to be involved in that relationship.
No.
I just need to make it happen.
Yeah.
And that's my role.
That's awesome.
And I try as much as I can to get the dealer negotiating directly with the breeder for price, you know, because it gives the dealer a buzz.
Yeah.
Okay, they can't always do it because of the language barrier, but you know, and we try never to use calculators because that just looks so unprofessional. And the moment anybody gets a calculator out, you're thinking they're hiding prices. So we try and get as much as possible the communication between the two. And I'm just there to facilitate and I'll sit back and let them get on with it and build the relationship.
It's amazing. I've really appreciated you coming and doing this interview. And
no, it's been an
hopefully
pleasure.
we'll have more Aakari Koi come in on the koi perspective in the future as well. And
if you find anything I do interesting, then that's fine. But yeah.
And you've got some exciting plans for future, which we won't discuss on here, but potentially in future.
Yeah, I mean, there's always ideas. There's always things you want to do. There's always the next level. But yeah, usually finances and time dictate that you can't do that. But yes, there's a couple of things that are in the pipeline that are quite well advanced. That
sounds exciting.
Yeah,
amazing. Thank you very much for watching, and follow Chris, as we've said, on Aakari Koi. And if you've liked this video, hit subscribe, and there'll be a detailed article in the Koi Perspective magazine for you to read on this interview as well. So head to thekoiperspective.com and sign up to the magazine completely free of charge on there as well.